Good afternoon. Today we're going to be talking about back to school, topic number 3, when your child doesn't like their teacher. So I just am curious how many of you guys have experienced this situation. I think a lot of us have, where our kids don't like their teacher, or there's something that just doesn't jive between the kid and teacher, and we're left with just dealing with the aftermath of that situation. So let me know in the comments, have you ever had this situation where your kid doesn't like their teacher and it makes them maybe not want to go to school, not want to show up, maybe even creates a lot of anxiety or, struggle when it comes to doing the schoolwork. So, when it comes to this situation, we want to really, of course, first look at ourselves and ask ourselves, why is this a problem for us? Like, why is this a problem for us? Why does this bother us so much? And when those answers come to you, that will tell you sort of what is happening in regards to how you're going to show up around this situation. So one of the things you may think is like, my child shouldn't not like their teacher. My child should like their teacher. This is a big deal. They're going to struggle all year. They're going to feel pain. They're going to be disappointed. They're not going to have a good year. They're not going to be happy. So a lot of the things that we're going to struggle with are the facts or the ideas, the thoughts that our kids are not going to, they're going to have negative emotion. They're not going to feel good. And one of the reasons that is so hard for us as parents is that we think our child should always be happy, or they should at least have good emotions, good feelings about school or about certain situations. And then when they don't, our brains immediately go to, we need to protect them. We need to make sure they don't feel bad. Something's gone wrong, all those kinds of things. And the reasons, if you really, really look down into the depth of why this is a problem for us as parents, isn't really because we don't want our kids to be happy, although that is part of it, but it's because we experience pain when our kids are not happy, okay? So when we're looking at our kids and watching them suffer through this situation of not liking their teacher, we can suffer along with them because of our thoughts about how this shouldn't be happening, or our kids shouldn't be in pain. They should always like their teacher. That's why we are struggling in reality. Our thoughts are what create our feelings. And so really, when this is happening for you, I want you to really think about what your thoughts are about the situation. And especially if you have should thoughts, like they should or they shouldn't be feeling a certain way, or something shouldn't be happening, that's going to cause suffering in you as the parent. And then when you end up suffering as the parent, how do you show up? So let's say you're struggling and your thought is like, my child should like their teacher. This is a problem. And you feel frustrated or you feel sad, right? And then from those emotions, what do you do? How do you interact with your kids when they talk about not liking their teacher, or they have conversations with you about their teacher, and in your mind it's like, this shouldn't be happening, this isn't fair? You're going to show up very differently than if you have thoughts that are more along the neutral line. So let's just say you thought, my child should like their teacher, it's not fair that they don't. Maybe you might agree with them, or you might not be able to be holding space for them around this. And instead, you might actually try to change the situation or agree with them, right? And then what happens is, when you are showing up with like this agreement around what they're struggling with, it intensifies their struggle. It helps them to see it as more of a problem than it maybe needs to be. And so what we want to do is we want to really pay attention to, are we showing up in a way that's going to increase their anxiety or their difficulty with their teacher? And instead, what we want to do is we want to show up more neutrally around the situation, because we don't really know whether or not the situation is going to turn out poorly or turn out well. My daughter actually had a teacher she did not like in first grade, and they clashed so much because he was very much into not making mistakes. You cannot make mistakes. If you make a mistake, you will get a dot. This is first grade. And my daughter has a lot of shame around making mistakes. So the two things just did not mesh well. And every day she'd go in feeling anxious and worried. She's going to get a dot. She's going to make a mistake. He's going to yell at me. She did not like it when teachers yelled at her. And so the whole year was this like struggle with her feeling shame every day around making mistakes. And the whole year was, every single day we get a note home about the thing that she did that wasn't good that day. And it just became kind of defeating for her. And it was painful for me. I didn't have these tools at that time. And I was, trying to get her out of the class. I was trying to talk to the teacher, and like nothing really came of it. And as it turned out, the whole year went by, and, she was okay. She made it through. And then what I saw in the future was she had learned some really valuable skills from this teacher. One of them was that she learned how to be disappointed. She learned how to work with a teacher that did not mesh with her style. She learned how to get through some negative emotions that were really hard. She learned how to go to school over and over again and handle a person that was challenging for her. She also learned some actually really good study skills. He actually was really good at getting them to check their work, and to manage their time well and to really study well. And so she got some good skills from him. And so in the end, it actually ended up being useful in some ways, right? And so now she has this in her back pocket. I dealt with a teacher that was hard for me to deal with in first grade, and I made it. I made it through. That means I have the confidence to always do that, be able to deal with difficult people, even if it's not easy. She gained confidence from that. And so I want you to go to those places. I want you to think about what could they gain from this situation, dealing with difficult people. Because as adults, we're going to deal with difficult people no matter where we are in whatever situation. So avoiding that is just not going to be helpful. So this is your child's opportunity to start learning those skills and start understanding how they do this, how they can do this themselves. Okay. So when you're having thoughts that are, this is just part of life. And sometimes this is good practice. Disappointment is good practice. Being able to deal with difficult people, good practice. Okay. We want to come from that place. We want to get to a neutral place around it and accept what is happening, and maybe even give up our judgment around it. We don't know if it's good or bad. We don't know the outcome. And so we want to be able to be there and support our kids in the way they need us. And only way we can do that is by being neutral around the situation and just empathizing, holding space for them and letting them process their feelings without getting into it with them and agreeing with them. And then, when you get worried about it or upset, make sure that you actually are going to the place of maybe could be a good thing. Maybe they could learn from this. Sorry about the video bomber behind me. But I hope that helps with the situation. Please let me know what you think about this. I'd love to hear how you feel about, when teachers are a little bit challenging for your kids and how you deal with it, or if any of these ideas resonated with you. All right, guys, have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.